So, today we will continue our discussion by answering some sample problems again with regards to vector quantities. So, for our second problem, an airplane travels at 4.5 times 10 squared kilometer due east and then travels an unknown distance due north. Finally, it returns to its starting point by traveling a distance of 525 kilometer. How far did the airplane travel due north? So, the first thing we need to do here is let's visualize the problem, tas ano yung pinapahanap. So, for example, okay, gawa ako ng aking magiging basis for my coordinate system. Okay, ayan. Diba, we know this is the east. I have here the east. I have here the north, the south, and the west. Okay? The first vector na meron tayo is nag-travel daw yung airplane 4.5 times 10 squared kilometer due east. Okay? So, it lies on our positive x-axis. So, this will be our first vector. Okay? Kunyari, this will be our first vector. Na ang distance is 4.5 times 10 squared kilometer. Then, after that, nag-travel daw ang ating airplane to the north with an unknown distance. So, from this one, I utilize tip to tail. So, gagawa lang ako ng ganito. So, I have my second vector to be this one. And since it is due north, we know if it is due north, okay, makakabuo tayo dito ng 90-degree angle. Ngayon, after niya mag-travel with some distance y, sabihin nating distance y, bumalik siya sa kanyang starting point. So, this is the starting point, okay? Bumalik siya sa kanyang starting point, okay? Tip to tail ulit, babalik ulit siya sa kanyang starting point. So for example, ayan. Ayan. Bumalik sa kanyang starting point na ang tinravel daw niya is 525 kilometers. So now, we are looking for this value of y. Kung gaano kalayo yung tinravel niya due north, okay? Ano yung distance na to, okay? To solve that, alam na natin agad, by just looking on the figure, we can utilize the Pythagorean theorem. Yun lang. Balik lang tayo sa concept natin. We have here a right triangle, and we know from Pythagorean theorem that the square of our hypotenuse is equal to the square o the sum of the squares of our two smaller sides. Okay? So from the figure, 525 will be our hypotenuse. Okay? So we utilize that one. We have here 525 squared is equal to, one of our side is 4.5 times 10 squared. So we have here 4.5 times 10 squared. Then we square that one. Tapos we have our y squared. So we're solving for this value of y. So rearranging our equation, we will have y squared is equal to 525 squared minus 4.5 times 10 squared. Okay, tapos, isi-square pa natin yan. We take the square root of both sides of our equation. Then we will have y to be the square root of 525 squared minus 4.5. Okay, so gamit tayo ng parenthesis, 4.5 times 10 squared. Okay? We will have 75 square root ng 13, or in decimal form 270, that is equal to 270.414164 kilometers. Bakit kilometers? Since we are consistent with our units naman na kilometer, 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 therefore kilometer po yung magiging sagot natin. Okay, so this is the distance na tinravel ng ating airplane going to the north. Okay, so we can also utilize our shift solve function here in our calculator. For example, we have 525. So, ang i-input lang natin kapag shift solve, etong equation na to. Okay? So, hindi mo na kailangan mag-manipulate ng ating equation. So, we have 525 squared is equal to 4.5. Type lang natin yon, 4.5 times 10 squared. Then, we square that one plus alpha, yung y natin or yung unknown value natin, i-represent natin siya as x, alpha x. Okay, so ito yung alpha, then this is the x1, x, then squared. Then click shift, then solve. Then we will have this one, 270.4163457. So nakuha na natin yung sagot natin. For our second problem, calculate the resultant of these four vectors. 200 Newton, 30 degrees of north of east. 200 Newton, 37 degrees of south of east. Then we have here also 150 Newton due west. We also have 100 Newton, 45 degrees northwest. So pwede tayo mag-graphical dito, but as what I have said in my previous videos, mas madali kapag nag-add tayo ng maraming vectors kung gagamit tayo ng rectangular components of our vector. So recall natin, kapag gusto natin, meron tayong vector magnitude tapos may angle tayo dito, okay? With reference yung angle natin sa x-axis, it's either x or positive or negative x-axis naman. Basta with reference with x-axis, we can use this formula. Yung component vector niya with y is equal to f sine theta. Kay x naman, f of x is f cosine theta. So let's solve this problem. Let's add these vectors or find the resultant of these vectors. Okay? Okay. So the first thing we need to do is set up our coordinate system. Okay? Kasi dito tayo magagawa ng vector natin. Then, lagay natin yung una nating vector. Yung una nating vector, okay, is 200 Newton, 30 degrees north of east. So, lagay pala natin dito yung mga north. We have here the east, we have here the south, and we have here the west. So, the first one is a vector na 200 Newton yung haba. Okay? So, starting from that one, papunta daw sa east, okay, north of east. So, ito, let's draw na lang. Okay. So, 200 newtons, ito, we have here 200 newtons. So, yung first vector is 30 degrees north of east. So, ano yung 30 degrees of north of east? So, from east, pupunta ka sa north, counterclockwise, okay? Or kung saan yung tinuturo niya, north of east, papunta ka sa north, from east, pupunta ka sa north, we have 30 degrees, okay? Meron tayong 30 degrees. So, we have here, okay, we have here 200 Newton. Then, yung degree nito is 30 degrees. Our second vector is 200 Newton, 37 degrees south of east. So, starting from east, papunta sa south, dapat yung vector natin is may 37 degrees. So, i-draw lang ulit natin yon. Okay. We have here 37 degrees. Okay. Ang haba nito is 200 Newton. Then, we also have 150 Newtons due west. So, starting from origin, papunta sa ating west. Okay. So, naglalay siya sa negative x-axis. So, ang haba nito is 150 Newton. Then, last one, we have a vector of 100 Newton, 45 degrees northwest. So, starting from west, papunta sa north, meron tayong 45 degrees. So, ito yon. We have here a vector na ganito. So, 45 degrees to. Tapos, ito yung 100 Newton. So, i-resolve natin siya. Okay? Since ito, ang i-resolve lang natin, yung may mga angle, i-resolve natin siya sa kanyang x and y component. So, itong 200 Newton, itong unang vector natin, pwede natin siyang i-resolve dito. Tatapat mo lang yan dito, di ba? I-resolve mo siya. Tapos, magkaka-vector ka na ganito. 200, itong vector na nasa violet. Ito. Okay. So, this vector is 200 Newton cosine 30. Okay? Sabi nga natin, kapag with reference sa ating x-axis, cosine gagamitin. Kapag naman dito, this is equal to 200 sine 30. Okay? Then, we need to resolve this one, itong vector na to. Okay? To its x and y components. So, kung gagawa ulit ako ng another vector dito, okay, magkapatong na vector na, this vector is equal to 200 cosine 37 degrees. Kasi itong vector na to, sa kanyang y, kapag niresolve natin siya sa y, we have here 200 sine 37 degrees. Now, we also have here a 100 Newton vector na may 45 degree angle. So, re-resolve natin siya dito. Okay. So, ito yung isang vector. Okay. Ito yung vector na to is 100 sine 45 degrees kasi we're talking about our y component of our vector. Then, we have also here a vector na 100 cosine 45 degrees. Okay. Ngayon, meron din tayong 150 newtons. Kaso, di na niyan kailangan ng kanyang x and y vector. Components kasi naglalay na siya mismo sa ating x and y axis or x or y axis. Ngayon, if we're done resolving the vectors, pwede na tayo mag-summation of our forces. Okay, recall natin, we can take the summation of our forces. Okay, and summation of our forces in the horizontal, merong x sub dito, f of x. Tapos, sabihin natin, lahat ng ating forces na pupunta sa ating positive x-axis or towards the east, okay, is positive. So, we just add those vectors. We have here 200 cosine 30. We also have 200 cosine 37. We also have here a vector na ito, 100 cosine 45. And last one, we have a vector na okay, so this should be negative 100 cosine 45 kasi nga, papunta na siya sa other opposite direction, okay? Kasi 'di ba sabi natin lahat ng papunta dito is positive. Therefore, itong 100 cosine 45, since yung line na to is papunta sa west, magne-negative siya. Same goes with the our 150 minus 150. And kailangan pa ba natin lagyan natin ng cosine yan? So, hindi na po kailangan. Kahit lagyan natin yan ng cosine 0 kasi yung angle nito with reference to our x-axis is 0 degrees and cosine 0 is equal to 1. So, basically 1 times 150 yan. So, kahit yung minus 150 na lang solve natin, then lagay lang natin siya sa calcu. 200 cosine 37. Then we have 200 cosine 30 plus, okay, so minus 100 cosine 45, okay. Then we also have here minus 150, okay. Meron tayong summation ng forces natin along x-axis is 112. So we have 112.22150 Newton, okay. So, store ko lang to sa aking calcu, shift, then store A. Okay, stinor ko lang siya sa aking variable A para hindi na ako magta-type mamaya. Then we take also the summation of our forces in our in our vertical direction. And I let lahat ng vectors ko papunta sa taas, okay? Since yan, I will let all my vectors going up na maging positive. So I take the summation of forces ng along the vertical direction ko. So, the first vector na meron ako is 200 sine 30. Meron din ako ditong 100 sine 45. So, mga pataas yan. So, positive yon. Tapos, itong nasa baba, going down, we have here 200 minus 200 sine 37. So, wala na. Yan lang po yung mga vectors natin sa ating y-axis. Then, we find the summation of that one. We have here 200 sine 30. Then 100 sine 45 minus 200 sine 37. The answer would be 50.34. So we have 50.34. 767 Newton. Okay. anong direction nitong mga na-solve ko na vector? Dito sa aking summation ng forces kay x, since ang pinag-a-add ko lang diyan is mga x vector, so ganito lang yan, tas kung mag-a-add ako ng second vector, babalik lang yan. Basically, kung nag-set ako dito, na kapag ang nakuha kong sagot dito ay positive, itong vector na to is papunta rin sa positive direction. Kung ang nakuha kong sagot dito sa baba, sa summation ng forces of y ko ay positive, therefore, itong vector na ito, papunta rin sa taas to. Okay? So, dito sa summation of forces of y, kapag meron akong vector sa y, di ba, add ko yan, nangyari, babalik dito. So, basically, up or down lang yan kapag nag-add ako ng vector along y-axis ko. So, kapag nag-positive, sabi ko dito, kapag nag-positive, papunta sa taas, therefore, positive to. Okay? So, mahalagang mag-set tayo ng ating direction. Then, I store this to my calcu on my letter B. Okay? Para at least, hindi ko na siya itatype mamaya. Then, if we want to find the resultant of these vectors, okay, we look for the magnitude. Okay? How do we find the magnitude? It is equal to the square root of the the sum of the squares of f of y and f of x. So, mathematically, that is equal to this one, f of y squared plus f of x squared. Okay, yung magnitude lang. So, f, or the magnitude of our vector, is equal to the square root of f of y, which is 50.34767 squared. Okay, store B ko to. Diba, sinustore ko yan sa B. Then, plus f of x ko ay equal to 112.22150 squared. Okay? Para kapag in-input ko siya sa calcu, madali na lang siya. Hindi ko na siya itatype lahat. I take the square root of, I'll get just a here, then square ko siya, plus I get also b here using the alpha para lumabas yung b, then square ko siya. Kapag pinundot ko si calc, magpapa-input yan ng a. Ito yung a na tinor ko, 112. Then, just click equal, then lalabas si 50, magpapa-input ng 50, pero nag-store na nga ako 50, so 50.3476. Then, equal ko na lang siya, makukuha ko as 122, okay? 122.99819 newtons. Okay? This is the magnitude of my vector. But I want also, since we're talking about vectors here, we need to find the direction of these vectors. Okay? So, how do we find that? Using our formula, theta equal to the arctan of f of y over f of x. Okay? So, we just substitute our values. We have f of y to be 50.34767 and our f of x to be 112.22150. Okay? So, baka magmukhang negative to. This should be 122. Then, I have here the theta to be equal to, pwede ko lang i-utilize ulit yon. I'll get the arctan. So, my arctan is here on the yellow on my tangent. So, I'll just click shift, then click the tan para lumabas si arctan, and I'll input my 50.3476, which is stored in letter B, so alpha B, over alpha A. Okay, we can check that out kung ano yung mga nakastore sa B and A by just clicking calc. So, lalabas yan, yung B ko is 50.3476, then yung A ko is 112.22150. So, we have here an angle of 24.163. Okay? Degrees. So, ano tong angle na to? Saan to naka-reference? Take note, kung gusto kong i-visualize anong itsura ng vector ko. Yung f of x ko tsaka f of y ko are both positive. Going to the positive x-axis and the positive y-axis. Paano ko nasabi? Kasi po, positive to, and positive yung na-solve ko sa y, and positive yung na-solve ko sa x. Okay? Sa summation ng forces ng x. So, basically, kung ayan, ito yung magiging f of x ko, ito yung magiging f of y ko. Okay? Ngayari, yan yung magiging f of x ko. Ito yung magiging f of y ko. Kapag gusto kong kunin yung resultant, by parallelogram law, ito yung magiging resultant. Tama? And nakakuha na natin yung resultant na to. Okay? Tapos, yung angle na tinutukoy natin dito is this angle. Okay? Itong angle na to. So, with reference to positive x-axis. So, therefore, our resultant vector is equal to 122.998 newtons. Okay? Then, at an angle of 24.163 degrees north of east. Okay? So, ito na po yung aking sagot. Okay? This will be my final answer. I can also represent this angle as, katulad ng ginawa ko sa ibang problems, 24.163 degrees. Tapos, I draw here the figure na ganyan. Ito yung angle na tinutukoy ko. Positive x-axis, tas itong angle na to. Kung ayaw kayo sulat na north of east. So, pwede to. Okay? Most likely, ganito yung ginagamit natin. But, sige, since para maging consistent tayo na may northeast tayong mga sinusulat, yan na lang yan. Yung ating sagot. So, we can just check also this in our calculator using the complex mode. How do we check this one? Before we check that one, it is necessary for us to find the angle na meron tayo of our, na meron yung vectors natin starting with our, lahat ng vectors natin na naka-respect sa positive x-axis. So, paano po yung tinutukoy ko? For example, here, eto, gagawa ako ng panibago. Hindi, sige, ito na lang. Okay. Start tayo. Eto, 30-degree angle to. Tapos, hanapin ko yung angle na to para diretso ako sa 100 newtons. Since alam ko 45 to and 90, pwede akong gumamit ng 90 plus 45. Okay, kasi, di ba, this is a right triangle, this is a right angle. Itong mga axis natin. So, para makuha ko tong angle na nasa blue, yung paikot na blue, I just add 90 plus 45 kasi this angle, since we know that this angle is complementary. Okay, 45 to, 45 to. Dapat complementary sila. So, we have here 90 plus 45, that is equal to 135 degrees. Tapos, hanapin ko yung angle ng aking third vector. Yung third vector ko is this 150 Newton. This has an angle of 180 degrees. Tapos, yung last vector ko, ito yung last vector ko, paikot siya hanggang dito. Okay? Since we know na each quadrant or each axis, itong intersection ng north and east, meron siyang 90-degree angle. Therefore, this is 90 plus 90. Itong line na to, 180 na to. Itong line na to. Tapos, pagdating dito, 270 na yon. Tapos, ito ay 37. Also, we can use pala, para mas madali na lang. Alam natin, ay nabubura. Ito yan. Alam natin na isang revolution, we have 360 degrees. So, isang paikot na to, 360 degrees. So, basically, pwede natin subtract si 37 na lang si 37 sa 360 minus 37. Makukuha na natin yung angle na yon, 323 degrees. Okay, so we have here 323 degrees for our 200 Newton. Okay, na ito. So, for this one. So, by using our complex calculator, okay, shift, punta tayo sa mode niya na complex, then we add those vectors. We start with our first vector na 200 Newton. Ang angle niya ay 30 degrees. So, we just click this angle. Okay, shift tapos itong may negative sign. Then we input 30 degrees. Tapos add natin yung second vector natin na 100 Newton na merong na 30 degrees northeast, which is may angle na 135 degrees. Okay? Plus, meron tayong angle here na meron tayong next vector na 150 Newton na towards our west. So, we just need to add it 150. At ang angle na yon ay 180 degrees. Kasi straight line siya. Lastly, we have our vector na 200 Newton na ang angle ay 320 degrees. Okay? Tapos, just click equal. Ito yung lalabas. It is an A plus BI form. Okay? Complex number yan. Pero para maging ganitong form siya na may magnitude and direction, or angle, we just click shift then complex, tapos pindutin natin yung number 3 dito. Then magkakaroon tayo dito ng ating resultant with angle. So 122.99819. So ito yung nakuha natin. Tapos yung angle natin is 24.16317 degrees. So itong angle na tinutukoy dito palagi is with respect to dun sa ating positive x-axis counterclockwise. So kung paano natin sinet itong mga angle na to for our complex calculation, ganun din yung lalabas na sagot dun. Okay?